All right.
All right.
So if I can have everybody just lean in a little bit. All right. There we go. You might be thinking, wow, that's a big old camera. Or you didn't know it was a camera. Part of the reason you might not recognize this as a camera is not because it's old. It was actually built in 1998. The problem is it's obsolete. And in 1998, so was my education in photography. I just hadn't realized it yet. I've been doing photography for a long time. I got my first camera when I was 9, processed my first roll of film at 11. I got my first paid job working for the Boy Scouts when I was 14. When I was in high school, I was voted most likely to annoy people with a camera. Normally, working on your career early is a good thing. My problem was I was doing the right thing just at the wrong time. By the time I left college, I was perfectly prepared to be a photographer, as long as nothing changed. The problem is, everything did change. And I realized it when I bought this camera. The ad said, 4x5 Toyo View camera, Schneider lens, like new, ask for Mike. Well, Mike was a photographer too, but he was a really big-time photographer. He had a huge studio, lights, assistants, a secretary. I didn't even know photographers had secretaries. I had a studio too. It was just me and another friend sleeping on the floor of a commercial building. When I asked Mike why he was selling the camera, he said he was shutting down, that the special effects photography that he did was being replaced by computers, and that there was no way he could compete with the new guys. My first thought was, yeah, us new guys. I was younger than Mike, but I was trained in the exact same things, film and darkroom. The new guys he was talking about were working in digital cameras and on computers. After that meeting with Mike, my confidence went way down. I didn't know less about taking pictures, but I realized I knew a lot less about the industry than I should. And if I didn't want to end up like Mike, I needed a plan. My first plan was pretty simple. My next plan was better. Ultimately, I broke it down into two parts. I needed knowledge and experience. I needed knowledge and information about the newest technology and the latest cameras. And then I needed experience with them, hands-on experience, actually using these tools. For the knowledge part, I just went to the computer, and after reading endless articles about the death of film and changing face of photography and everything's ending and your life's wrecked, I think everybody saw that one. I realized that the conversation between real working photographers was more or less the same. We were all kind of in the same boat, and there was no real specialists yet. And this was good news for me because that meant I had less catching up to do. And it was also good in the sense that the next part was going to be much harder. Getting your hands on a new digital camera in 1998 was very difficult. They were exceedingly expensive, very complicated, and there was no way you could just walk into somebody's studio and say, hey, I hear you've got the new camera, do you mind if I play with it? It would be equivalent to asking someone you never met to borrow the keys to your car so you could learn how to drive. So I came up with a plan. I went to the camera companies and I said, I want to buy a camera. It's amazing what people will let you do when you spend, or when they think you're going to spend, $40,000 on a camera. And to be fair, I would have bought one. I just didn't have $40,000. While I was on these test drives, I would ask the salespeople the names of photographers that did buy them, and then I would do whatever I could to get on a shoot with them. I would make deliveries or be an assistant, and then once I was there, I'd hang out as long as I could trying to gather information. After about 9 months of this deceptive learning process, I got my first chance to actually test these things that I learned. I got a call from a surf clothing company, and they said they have a problem. They wanted their next ad campaign to be shot in lots of different locations, but they only had enough money for one, a studio. So I said, fine, we'll bring it in studio, we'll shoot everything, put in the backgrounds later. The other photographers they talked to didn't like the idea of faking the backgrounds, and they wanted to go on location. Going on location would have been great, but a national ad campaign that was specifically tailored around what I was learning was even better. We went into the studio, and we turned these into these, and everybody was happy. Ads went out, they ended up all over the place. The clients were pleased because they got their location, and I got my confidence back. And I realized that the change that I was so worried about actually ended up being better for me than if it never happened at all. And the thing I'd like to leave you with is not that things change. It's that sometimes things change very dramatically and very fundamentally. And if you want to re-educate yourself, it's best to jump in before that gap gets too wide. It's like an earthquake movie where the ground splits open and the first people get across really easy, and then as that crack gets wider, the last people are leaping for their lives. Jumping into something new is scary, but waiting until you have to can be terrifying. Charles Darwin said, "It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the ones most receptive to change." But I think the Boy Scouts actually said it a little better. Be prepared. Thanks.